Section 2 revisits the four-part processing model of word recognition in relation to language comprehension and development. We'll explore how the structure of the English language, its syntax, grammar, and morphology, supports reading skills, and how language and morphological awareness can help support the instructional shift to academic language. This section also includes consideration of word, sentence, and passage-level language structures in support of comprehension. As discussed in Section 1, spoken and written language are different. Oral language is natural, while reading is not. Improving oral language skills can support academic language and reading development. In this model of word recognition, we have oral language input and output in our speech sound system interacting with our orthographic processors, or our written language input and output. In order to recognize words, we can then link to meaning. That meaning is further informed by the context in which we encounter words. We can see that pieces of our language comprehension strand from Scarborough's reading rope inform our context processor and help readers create or extract meaning. As we integrate oral language in support of our students' reading comprehension, we can see how language structures are layered into text. We do need to consider text-level components such as making meaning across sentences and background knowledge of the topic. But before our students can comprehend text passages, our early readers need to understand how words are arranged in sentences and the written conventions for punctuation and capitalization. And that begins with the word level. Decoding is that non-negotiable entry point into reading comprehension. Word reading must be accurate and automatic to activate meaning. We need to build those word level skills, integrate them into sentence comprehension, and further enable understanding of connected text. At the word level, thinking back to Module 7, we recall that words are comprised of these layers of language, which we can access for both decoding and meaning. As we've already learned, the phonemic layer of decoding is necessary for beginning reading instruction and helpful for reading single syllables. As students encounter longer words with more complex phonics patterns, reading longer words by chunks is necessary. We need to teach our students about both syllables and morphemes so they can confidently read those long words. We'll focus on how morphemes impact word meaning later in this section. Once a word is recognized, we must connect it to a meaning that's already known or add a new meaning into our students' mental dictionary. Vocabulary is a powerful contributor to reading comprehension. Development of oral language vocabulary is crucial. Knowledge of individual word meanings is thought to account for up to 50% of the variance in reading comprehension. Explicit vocabulary instruction is particularly critical for struggling readers who likely read less than their peers and who are also unlikely able to use context clues to figure out word meanings. A robust vocabulary benefits both reading and writing. Academic language is the language of schools and work, of books and assessments, and is needed for academic success. Emergent readers likely won't get exposure to these types of words during independent reading practice with decodable readers, so we need to be sure to provide that intentionally through read-alouds and direct instruction in oral language vocabulary building. Of course, we don't have the capacity to teach our students all the words they need to build academic success. Isabel Beck and colleagues provide guidance on choosing which words to teach in your instructional context. Tier 1 words are basic words that are very likely already familiar to students and connected with their prior knowledge. Most students enter formal schooling with these words in their everyday vocabulary. However, it's important to include these in direct instruction for English language learners and others as needed. Tier 2 words are versatile words that can be used across a range of contexts and disciplines. These are high-frequency academic words that are necessary to understanding. This tier is our goal for instruction. Tier 3 words are less common content-specific words that are often isolated to their specific context. Think about science and math terminology and occupation-specific words. We do want to provide exposure to these valuable types of words. We'll provide explicit instruction on these as the need arises. Tier 2 words are generally accepted to be the most beneficial target for direct instruction due to their high utility and versatility. We can explore the meaning of words that students may not have orthographic representations for yet, so those words become part of their oral vocabulary to support decoding, background knowledge, and comprehension growth. Frager models like this example are great tools for vocabulary development. We can use these to organize our own oral instruction and then add scaffolding for students to use them on their own. Typically, one box houses a student-friendly definition, one has the word in a sentence, one section is for examples and non-examples, and another a visual representation that will help students remember the word. The word itself is in the center of the page, often with some sort of identifying feature, such as the part of speech, the language of origin, or any other target for expanding word learning. In this case, we can focus on how adding the y suffix turned a noun into an adjective. That y means pertaining to or like, as in, like a grump. We can reinforce that morpheme y with our other planned examples. Grouchy means like a grouch. Crabby is like a crab. Cheery is like cheerful. It may surprise you to learn that the y on the word happy was originally a suffix added to the base word hap, meaning good fortune. The base word had the misfortune of falling out of favor somewhere in time, so the whole word is often considered one morpheme now instead of two. Let's revisit morphology. Think again back to Module 7 on word recognition, which focused on how morphemes support decoding and spelling. In our current context, our focus is on meaning. Morphology is another contributing factor to oral language vocabulary acquisition and making meaning from text. Let's recall this definition check-in. Morphology is the study of meaningful word parts, affixes, bases, word roots. A morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning in a word. For example, there are two morphemes in the word cats, the base word cat and the suffix s, which here means more than one. Words are usually created from roots and base words that are either free or bound. Free morphemes can stand alone as words. For example, the word glad can be its own word, and it can also be suffixed to make the word gladly. Bound morphemes only make sense when they're combined with an affix or another bound morpheme. For example, the Latin base ject holds meaning, to throw, but it needs to be bound to another morpheme to form an English word, as in interject, or needs to be combined with an affix, as in the word reject. Inflectional morphemes are the entry point for instruction with our emergent readers. When an inflectional suffix is added to a word, it changes the meaning, but it does not change the part of speech of the word. For example, adding an s onto the noun dog to say or spell the noun dogs, or adding a suffix like ed or ing onto the verb walk to say or spell the verb walked or walking. The part of speech remains unchanged. Derivational morphology refers to when an affix is added to a word and it creates a new meaning, and it often changes the function, the part of speech, of the word. For example, if we add the suffix tion to the verb inspect, it becomes the noun form, inspection, and now it has a new meaning as well. Understanding morphology and the morphological relationships between connected words can help students make sense of both meaning and spelling, even from a very young age. The general stability of morphemes across words can be seen as morphological structure is preserved in orthography despite pronunciation changes. Let's take this word office as an example. We can see that base element office in the spelling of each of these related words: officer, official, officiate, officiant. Even though the sounds changed as the words were affixed, the meaning remained stable, and the spelling stayed mostly intact to indicate its meaning. And we can see that the spelling changes made when adding affixes were based on predictable patterns. So even though the sound and orthography may shift, morphology serves as an anchor between related words. Including morphology in literacy instruction, even for young children, is impactful. Explicit instruction in even a small number of morphemes can aid students in both word recognition and meaning. According to White and colleagues, almost 3,000 prefixed words found in 3rd through 9th grade begin with un, re, and in, and with the addition of the prefix dis, students can cover about 58% of prefix words they will encounter. Let's move to the sentence level of language structure. Syntax refers to the order of words, clauses, and phrases to form a standard sentence. We order words for emphasis and engagement, and that also impacts meaning. Grammar is the system of language. Its rules for syntax and more, morphology, phonology, semantics, spelling. These structures are needed to enable common understanding between the speaker and listener, the writer and the reader. Sometimes a non-example provides clarity for the concept. In this case, we can see that Yoda's syntax is ordered differently from the general English pattern of subject-verb-complete thought. Instead of "the mind of a child is truly wonderful," he would say, "Truly wonderful the mind of a child is." Or, "Much to learn you still have." And my favorite, "When 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not." We need to teach students at the sentence level. Understanding sentences becomes more difficult as the length increases, as clauses and phrases are added, and when words have multiple meanings, when encountering technical terms and complexity increases. Informational text is often more complex than narrative text. Pronoun reference can be very challenging. In this last sentence, keeping track of who or what they refers to can be tricky. We need to provide direct, explicit instruction in those elements of grammar that support reading comprehension and clarity with written expression. They are reciprocating skills. Syntax instruction applies to both oral and written language, so it's not just a paper and pencil assignment. In the earliest grades and for early stage readers, sentence-level instruction should be given as oral instruction with sufficient teacher modeling and group practice before independent application. Sentence-level comprehension instruction will be more effective when it's integrated across content areas and grades and not just isolated as a part of the ELA block. This instructional time is well spent and benefit to reading comprehension, writing, and critical thinking. At the text level, let's revisit background knowledge as a language component necessary for deriving meaning from print. This is examined in more detail in Module 11. The word gap demonstrates how children come to school with differing vocabularies and background knowledge. We need to provide that explicit instruction for equitable knowledge building. Proficient decoding is vital for reading, but it does not ensure comprehension. Background knowledge of a topic is a major factor in reading performance and comprehension. Recent research from Smith and colleagues in 2021 looked at 22 studies regarding background knowledge and reading comprehension in children aged 6 through 12. They concluded that, quote, readers who have a strong knowledge of a particular topic, both in terms of quantity and quality of knowledge, are more able to comprehend a text than a similarly cohesive text for which they lack background knowledge, end quote. Knowledge and rich vocabulary develop through increased opportunities and exposures, primarily through text interactions and rich conversation. Lack of background knowledge also negatively impacts complex comprehension skills like inferencing and predicting. Integrating knowledge building into your structured literacy instruction requires direct and explicit vocabulary instruction, coordinated and systematic instruction of topic knowledge, ongoing intentional oral language development through teacher-led read-alouds and audiobooks, adding visual supports to enhance understanding, such as short video clips, pictures and photos, maps and charts, and being intentional about planned conversations and discussions that target specific content and specific students' development. In summary, knowledge about the structures of the English language, including syntax, grammar, and morphology, support reading skills for both sides of the simple view of reading equation. Language and morphological awareness can help support the shift to explicit instruction with academic language. Comprehension happens at the word level, sentence level, and passage level, and vocabulary and knowledge building are crucial to supporting that shift to academic language learning.